What's up, fight fans? It's the mighty mean Joe Frazier. You are now tuned in to Fist Physics. Today's topic is Canelo Triple G. We're on our path. We're on the road. We're almost there. Well, I can't even say that. We're like 2 months away, man. This is still June.
Paint the sky your favorite color.
But the fight fans are starting to salivate at just the thought of this fight. And man, I really do wish Mikey Garcia, Adrian Broner was actually taking place as an undercard fight. And that's no slight to them, but as an undercard fight on this card, because I feel like this would have been the pay-per-view event of the year with those two fights going on the same night. I'm not even sure who's inked in as the undercard fights for the Triple G Canelo yet. But as we take this long, slow path towards the fight, which is set for the date of September 16th at, I believe, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, there's been a lot of talk from the Triple G side, a lot of criticism about the Canelo Chavez fight, which I don't understand. I mean, you know, for the novice fan, maybe Triple G's statements make some sense, but for the hardcore fans, we all knew that Chavez fight was pretty much an exhibition match. If you actually watch the fight, which I really wouldn't advise you to even bother watching it, but if you did, you would notice that Canelo treats it like a straight up sparring session. There's no fight there to really have. Not only that, but it also helped to build up Triple G Canelo. I mean, so Triple G should actually be really happy that the Chavez fight happened, and that more people were exposed to his name, because this is exactly why he's not the A side. Triple G is still a B fighter until he makes a marquee name for himself by beating some other guys with names. And Triple G himself has come under a lot of criticism because he stayed at a weight class at an older age waiting for a young kid to accept his challenge, when a lot of the veteran fighters, those marquee A-level fighters, were telling them, listen, bro, you got to go up in weight, man. Beat this guy. Beat this guy. You know, all of the great champions have done this. And what did Triple G do? And he came under no slack for it. He stayed at his own weight class, fighting guys that we knew he was going to beat. I mean, Daniel Jacobs looked like he had a pretty good shot. He still lost anyway. But a lot of the other guys on Gennady's resume as of late are not known fighters. You know, you got to be like a hardcore boxing fan to really know who a lot of these guys were. And even some of the names on there, you didn't know these guys until they fought Triple G. So Triple G should actually be really happy that the Chavez fight happened. More people were exposed to Gennady Golovkin, and they know who he is. Now, as far as this fight going down, there are quite a few people. Now, let me just cover that real quick. On the odds, I do believe G's a 2-1 favorite. Since this fight's been inked, the contract's been signed, he's been a 2-1 favorite. But it seems like the boxing community, not even the fans, but the boxing community, they're all leaning towards the Canelo side. Now, what do the boxing public, and I mean like fighters, people who hang out in gyms, these guys who stalk all the fighters and do all the interviews, all of these people are in one group, and most of them are leaning towards Canelo. Then you have the straight fan. A lot of the fans are leaning towards Triple G. So what does the boxing community see in Canelo that the boxing fans don't see? And I think I know what it is. Since Canelo was a kid, And we were first introduced to Canelo, I think, at 17, 18 years old on HBO. He has emulated Floyd Mayweather to a T. And the older he gets, the more Floyd Mayweather I see in him. Just because you don't see him fighting behind the shoulder doesn't mean he doesn't know how. Just because he doesn't do some of the trademark moves, like the straight right, duck under, and slide off to the side, some of the trademark moves of a Floyd Mayweather he might not do. But you really have to be, I guess, just a real diehard fan of boxing to see what I'm talking about. It's the way that he moves, the way that he stalks, the way that he cuts off the ring, his adjustments. They remind me so much of a mid-age Floyd Mayweather, not young Mayweather. Because if you ever find a fighter who's like young Mayweather, man, that's like once a generation, once a lifetime. And I don't think, even from some of the top prospects that are going to be making a name for themselves over the next 10 years, I haven't seen anybody who comes close to matching Floyd's speed or power, because he was unreal in his young days. But Canelo, I do see a lot of Floyd Mayweather. And Triple G really only has maybe like 2 real solid moves that he makes that allows him to beat up on his opponents the way that he does. Now, how is this fight going to play out? I'm leaning towards Canelo too. Why? Well, let's start at this. Mexican fighters as a whole have been known for having really sturdy chins. I don't care who you want to look at, Antonio Margarito, Barrera, Eric Morales, De La Hoya. A lot of Mexican fighters, and I'm not even going to bring up Julio Cesar Chavez, man. I'm not even going to bring up that guy, but Mexican fighters throughout the generations since boxing has been a worldwide sport have been known for having really, really granite chins. And even though we haven't seen Canelo ever get hurt yet, I don't think Triple G has it in him to hurt him. I mean, it's one of the things that I noticed about Golden Boy, especially after they lost all their fighters and they lost Richard Schaefer, and Canelo was the last guy that they had of a marquee status. They weren't gonna risk Canelo losing Canelo for any reason. So the minute that this fight was made, even when the minute that the Chavez fight was made, I knew in the back of my mind, Canelo probably is having a hard time even making 160. Because Canelo's always been really big. But see, the thing about his size is he's also really fast. He's a lot faster than Triple G. Now, Triple G does a lot of his best work off your jab. He has an old school way of shooting his jab, and at the same time as you shooting your jab, and he actually catches your jab and he steps forward with his, which is old school Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano types of stuff. But it only works when a guy has a jab, when a guy's dependent on a jab to build and set up. Canelo's really not a jabber. You don't hear many people saying, oh man, yeah, Canelo, man, he set him up with the jab. You don't really hear a lot of talk about Canelo's jab. I mean, he has one, but he's not solely dependent on that jab. I mean, he uses it in various different ways. Sometimes it's just for show. Sometimes it's to push you back. Sometimes it's to obscure your view so he can slide off to the left or the right and hit you with something to the body. But my point is, he's not a guy who has to land a jab and build on it to be effective. So when you're dealing with a guy whose main trademark is taking away your jab against a guy who is not reliant on the jab, where does he go? Triple G has proven himself to be a mid-range fighter. He likes to keep a guy at mid-range. But now what happens when Canelo's on the outside or Canelo's on the inside and he's the faster guy and he's physically bigger than you? And I know that, a lot of people think that Triple G, because he's been the middleweight champ and Canelo's been at 154 for so long, that Triple G is going to be the bigger man. No, Canelo's growing, man. He's a young man, and he's still growing. And I think one of the scariest things is Canelo seems to be getting wider. Even going back to the Cotto fight, and I heard rumors that Canelo walked in weighing like 170, 175, 180. And I had to believe it. Why? Because when Cotto was in front of Canelo, I couldn't see Cotto anymore. All I saw was Canelo's back, which means he is huge for 154, which means he's big for 160, because that was a few years back. So how's Triple G going to deal with a guy who is not relying on his jab, who's faster, maybe not as strong, but he's probably the most durable fighter that you have been in the ring with yet in your career? He's undefeated. He's hungry. He has it in the back of his mind that he can beat you anyway, simply because Floyd Mayweather co-signed, and Floyd Mayweather is the guy of boxing. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, love him or hate him. Imagine the feeling of confidence that you would have being endorsed by not only a guy who stepped in the ring with you and schooled you, but a legendary Hall of Fame fighter like Floyd Mayweather saying that, you know what, Canelo can pull this off. There's no doubt in my mind. That's going to be a confidence booster within itself. It's also going to negate G's confidence, because he's going to say, what does Floyd see in me or in Canelo that makes him feel that way? Anybody would have to ask that question, realistically. And I'm one of the people that are saying that Canelo will beat Triple G, and I'm going to say it goes in a decision. I don't see a stoppage for neither one of these guys. Triple G has a great chin. He's always in great shape. He actually is closer to 160 than I believe Canelo. So I don't think the body, and not even like to say you see G going to the body a lot, but if he does decide to invest, if Canelo does decide to invest in body shots on G, I don't see him really fading towards the end. But I do see this as a unanimous decision for Canelo. It's his time to shine. I'm not going to put my money on a guy who's well past 30, who's had almost 400 amateur fights. I mean, that's gonna physically burn out a fighter anyway. The training, day in and day out, sparring sessions. G's really to me, he's a shop-worn fighter, man. He's spent too much time in the amateurs. I would feel a lot different about Gennady had we seen him maybe after 150 amateur fights and Gennady Golovkin at 23. I would probably feel a lot better if Triple G was 28, Canelo's 26, with their level of experience. Now, some people are going to say, you know what, though? Experience is going to be key. You really can't say that, because amateur boxing is totally different from professional boxing, and Canelo has a ton more experience than Triple G. Canelo sparred the who's who of boxing. He's fought the who's who of boxing. Who's Triple G sparred with? Canelo. I mean, so I'm leaning towards Canelo. I think Canelo beats Triple G in a fast-paced fight. He's going to have to jump on G. He's going to have to jump on him. But you know what? That's what I'm saying today. I could actually change my mind halfway through if Canelo's not looking like he should halfway through the training. But I really find that highly doubtful. I mean, I was seeing videos being posted of Canelo right back in the gym the day after the Chavez fight. So I think Canelo's taking this fight really seriously. This is his fight. This is the equivalent in my opinion, of when Floyd Mayweather went to fight Diego Corrales. It's one of those. It's one of those nail biters, one of those edge of your seats kind of events. I hope that they stack the undercard a little. I really hate paying all of this money and waiting all night to see one main event, and then you have all of these undercard fights. A lot of times with people that you're not familiar with, they're not promoting, and they just throw them up there and expect you to be entertained by two unknown fighters who you're not emotionally invested in, which I really don't think a lot of people find too entertaining. I don't know why these promotional companies have been doing that. But I'll keep updating everybody, letting you know what's going down in the camps and what's being said in the interviews. Last thing I want to touch on real quick is the fact that Triple G said, I believe it was to TMZ, they asked him about Floyd Mayweather, and he said, you know what, I don't see a Floyd Mayweather fight happening. But I'm going to say this. If Gennady beats the brakes off Canelo, if he stops Canelo in the 3rd or 4th round, I do see Floyd Mayweather coming out of retirement to fight him. Because there's one thing about Floyd, you have to be coming off a big win. If you really follow Floyd Mayweather's career, it's not like other fighters who wait till you have the biggest loss of your career and they're calling your phone up. All right, Floyd was never one of those guys. He's not an Amir Khan who waits till you get 2 fights and 2 broken eye sockets to say, oh, I'll fight you now, man. Floyd Mayweather's not like that. His whole career, except for Conor McGregor, and I don't know what Conor McGregor's last fight was because I don't watch UFC. So I'm saying except for Conor McGregor, just about every single guy on Floyd Mayweather's resume from about 2005 to the point where he retired, they were coming off the biggest wins of their lives, the biggest wins of their careers. Maybe Zab Judah, I don't, off the top of my head, now that I'm saying that, because I don't have anything in front of me, like I'm not reading from paper or anything. So I feel like maybe Zab lost to Carlos Baldomir. Mayweather beat Baldomir and ended up defending the belt against Zab Judah when he was supposed to be beating Zab Judah to take the belt. But that was one of those freak things. That was a really bad fight for Zab. Go look it up. It's actually really funny. Go look that up if you never saw that fight. But Floyd Mayweather likes to fight guys coming off the biggest wins of their careers. So if Triple G beats the brakes off Canelo, stops him under 5 or 4 rounds, I do see Mayweather stepping up and taking the challenge, because now this becomes a $100 million fight, and that's all Floyd is going to fight for is 9 figures. So I do see a possibility of that happening. But when I heard Triple G made that statement to TMZ, it made me question his confidence about how he was feeling about the Canelo fight now. See, because he wanted the Canelo fight like 3 years ago. He's a much younger guy. He was fresher. You know, all these sparring sessions and all these training sessions, he hadn't been done yet. He wanted Canelo when he was like 30 years old. Canelo was like 23. He was still young, man. But now that you're getting a little closer to 35 and Canelo's like 26, maybe you do have a little bit of doubt. And that's what I caught when I heard about that statement. Now, either one of these fighters, when this fight is over, no matter who wins, there's not a lot of competition left at 160 pounds, because Gennady has pretty much nearly wiped the division clean, minus the UK fighters, Billy Joe Saunders, guys like that. I want to see one of these guys move up and have a bigger fight against maybe I can't remember the guy that Top Rank has at 168. You also got James DeGale, 168. And James DeGale doesn't have any power. He's pretty quick. He throws in volume. But I think either Canelo or Triple G, I think, beats him. And I would actually like to see one of these gentlemen move up and challenge Andre Ward. Mainly Canelo. I think Canelo at about 28, 29 years old versus Andre Ward, who will be about 33, 34 years old. at a possible catch weight of 165, 166. It makes sense to me. When I throw it around in my head, it seems like it would be a very entertaining fight. Unlike Triple G, I think Ward would bite at a Canelo fishing line, the bait. I think he would take the bait because Canelo was a much bigger name than Gennady Golovkin, and the money that Ward could make fighting a Canelo even at the end of his career is probably would be the most substantial payout that he's ever received. So I would really like to see, no matter who wins this fight, guys moving up and bringing that sort of drama back to boxing, because there's nobody who's jumping through divisions. You know, when Manny Pacquiao was a young guy and he's jumping through divisions, that's exciting because he's in the ring with guys who are so much bigger than him and are known punchers that you can't help but to get nervous. Like, yo, is this the guy? Is he the guy who takes Manny out? So I want to feel that same way about these two gentlemen, and they're going to have to pick up their pace as far as moving up in weight and grabbing these belts. All right, it's the Mighty Mean Joe Frazier. 1.